And we're back on the Fowler Show. It's time for the Washington Whisperer segment, where we whisper to each other and we get cozy. We're talking about the president, as we always are. President Trump is losing support from black Republicans, left and right, and he doesn't seem to care at all. After last week's comments where he called Haiti and African nations shithole countries or shithouse, whichever you prefer, many prominent black Republicans have denounced President Trump, even going as far to call him a racist. Let's not forget that while campaigning, Trump said he had a great relationship with the blacks. Doesn't seem that way to me. I'll never forget when he made that comment. Hey, there goes my black. I have a great relationship with the blacks. And then he rolled out Don King, as if Don King was a spokesman for black people. He isn't. Don King hasn't been relevant since Mike Tyson was relevant. And I'm not talking about Mike Tyson Hangover edition. I'm talking about Mike Tyson, the actual award-winning prized fighter. Anyway, I digress. So here we are, a year in to President Trump's administration. And black people, I think they hate him more now than they did when he was running for president. And black Republicans are dropping like flies when it comes to supporting this president. I mean, not even Omarosa supports the president, and she's working on her tell-all book about how she was so hurt by the White House. Mind you, there's no love lost for Omarosa. But let's talk about some serious Republicans and what they have to say about President Trump. Let's take a listen to what Haitian American Utah Congresswoman Mia Love had to say about Donald Trump on CNN recently. And Mia Love isn't alone. I mean, she's just the tip of the iceberg. We've also heard comments from Senator Tim Scott of South Carolina, former Republican National Committee Chair Mike Steele, and even his own cabinet secretary. The cabinet secretary for Housing and Urban Development, Ben Carson, have denounced President Trump's comments about Haiti and African nations. The president on Twitter says that his approval ratings amongst African Americans are as high as they ever have been. That America is #fake news. Here's the truth. The president's job approval ratings amongst African Americans as a whole has declined 60% since his first week in office. In January 2017, President Trump had a 15% approval rating amongst African Americans. Today, that number's at 6%. And here's why. And the reason why is because of the comments that he makes, what he says, what he does. But don't take my word for it. Let's hear it from a prominent Republican. New York Republican Mike Faulkner says when it comes to President Trump, given his history and his latest comments, the claim that he's a racist is almost undeniable. And here's what he said. This is the frightening part about it is almost as if Trump doesn't really care. You don't do a public photo op for Martin Luther King Day of you playing golf. Really? I'm really baffled. That is somebody from his own party, somebody who probably voted for him, who is like, I'm baffled by this man. He didn't do a community service project. He did nothing. We talked about it on the show last week. I won't go any further, right? But the president, let's just think about his instances of racism while president. One, the president's weak condemnation of white supremacists in Charlottesville. You remember it. I remember it. Violence on many sides. We had good people on many sides. No, there was good people on one side. Because there's nothing, the neo-Nazis aren't good people. The KKK, they're not good people. If you're racist, you're not a good person, period. Then you have his tactic of endorsing police brutality in New York, where he said, when you arrest them, you should rough them up. Remember that one? Oh, and then you have the lack of black people in his current administration. The West Wing, they have no black people who are seniors, assistants to the president or above. Omarosa was the only one they had. And when they dragged her out the White House, as they should have, to be frank, there was nobody. So there's no black people at the White House. He has one black cabinet secretary who's denounced him. There's, what, 2 or 3 black people in the House who are Republicans? They've denounced him. So yeah, his approval rating amongst, his support amongst black people who are Republicans, and they're far and few between, is limited. So as we get closer to November, when the Republican Party starts to talk to African Americans on whether they should vote for them, I hope they don't use Trump in their campaign ads, because he's going to be like, blacks? I've been great for the blacks. Look how low black unemployment rate is. Look at the blacks. The blacks should worship me. I gave them jobs. My response is going to be like, Mr. President, you can give them as many jobs as you want. It doesn't take away from the fact that many African Americans think that you're a racist. And you think that there was many sides in Charlottesville when most people who have common sense think there was one side. You want to keep Civil War statues up. Oh, and let's not forget the Central Park 5 from when you were billionaire Trump and you thought these guys were heinous criminals even though they did nothing wrong and they were prosecuted unjustly. Mr. President, you have a problem with race. It's not a small one. It's a big one. It's really big. And it's so big that it could cost your party control of the United States House of Representatives and likely the Senate. And it might actually cost you a chance of being president for 4 more years in 2020. And if you don't have to take my word for it, just ask your buddy what's his name, who ran for Senate in Alabama? You know who I'm talking about. Roy Moore. Ask your buddy Roy Moore what happens when African Americans are energized to take down a racist. You lose your election. So, Mr. President, you can continue to be a racist, but I guarantee you, as Martin Luther King said in a famous speech, the arc of history is long, but it always bends towards justice. And Mr. President, your justice, oh, it's coming. It's coming fast, and it's going to rush like a mighty river. So I say this to you, Mr. President, get your mind right. Get your mind right fast. Figure out what in you makes you say the things that you say, and figure out how you can reconcile that. I don't know, Mr. President, maybe you should visit an inner city and have a conversation with real African Americans dealing with real problems and try to find some sympathy for them. Harken back to the fact that your family came from Germany and you guys were once poor. Maybe that will help. I really do. I mean, actually, I don't know if that will help at all. I don't know. Maybe you can't be helped, Mr. President. But I hope you can. Because you're the President of the United States. Not the white United States. Not the black United States. Not the Hispanic United States. All of these United States. All 50 states. And there are black people in all 50 states. And there are Hispanic people in all 50 states. And your job is to lead them all. And you can't lead them all when you say racist things, and you do racist things, and you engage in racist activities. Now, I've been very, 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 very slow to call this president a racist. I really have. Because I do believe that I want to give him the benefit of the doubt. I really do. But it's really hard to do when the president thinks that Africa's a country and not a continent. And when he thinks Haiti's a shithole country, not understanding Haiti's history. So, Mr. President, allow me to educate you in a couple minutes I have left in this segment. Haiti was the first country to free itself from slavery. You see, when Toussaint Louverture decided that enough was enough, he organized the slaves in Haiti, and they revolted. They revolted against an oppressive regime. And then, because the Haitian people believed so much in justice and so much in fairness, they reached out and they decided to help the Americans. They fought side by side with the Americans in the American Revolution. They were a trading partner with the United States after America was independent, to the point where there's a statue dedicated to these Haitian freed people in, I want to say it's either Georgia or North Carolina. Don't quote me on it. One of those places. That is who they were. They're not and the reason why, let me be very clear as to why Haiti's economy is the way that it is because the developed world, Europeans, and then America joined them, forced Haiti to pay a fine, what would be in today's money, billions of dollars in fines so they could trade with the rest of the civilized world. And Haiti paid the fine, and they begin to trade. And then the United States decided that we were going to tinker in Haiti's affairs. At one point in time, Haiti was under control of the Marines. At another point in time, we bombed Haiti. So the reason that Haiti might be a shithole country has everything to do with the United States over interest in intervening in Haiti's domestic affairs. But I digress, Mr. President. Before you go around calling countries shitholes or shithouses, maybe you should educate yourself just a little bit. And if you did that, maybe, just maybe, your approval rating amongst African Americans would go up just a sliver. We'll be back after this break.